What up, perps? Kid Copious back in the bunker. Purple State Party. You know what we're trying to do here, man. We're repping America, the center, and common sense. And what's the other thing we always say? Something about popping in the free world? Yeah, I got one of those. There we go. Let's kick this show off, man. This is going to be kind of an important episode, I think. I think it puts a lot of things in focus. Start with the title, of this episode, 134th episode, in fact. I'm really proud of myself. And, I couldn't have done it without all the people who watch, even when it was just one of you or two of you. It doesn't matter, man. I just want to know that my message is getting out there. But today's episode is called Staring into the Abyss. And the reason I chose this is because I'm starting to realize that we have gone far too far down this path, this progressive liberal path. And, I love everyone, man. I want the best for everyone. Right now we have a lot of illegal immigrants coming across the border. Fine, from places like Venezuela. When they get here and they get established and they get put on paper and all of that stuff, I want them to have a good life. When I see those junkies out on the streets that are terrorizing people and breaking into cars every night, I hope we could clean them up and give them a better life. But are we going to have that? Are we going to have a better life for our children? Or are they just going to be struggling to get by? To get from work to home, and then what? No money left over, crime all around them, concern after concern after concern. And one of the biggest places where we're seeing this is this push in California towards electric vehicles. We're going to go so far down that road that there won't be any turning back. And that's what I'm the most afraid of, is that we are literally, as a country and in particular as a state, we are staring into the abyss. And we have activists and rich donors who are actively trying to push us into that abyss because that's what they believe in. Well, I think they're wrong. So let's start this show. All right, we're going to kick this one off very appropriately with the head dingus right now. Biden, democracy itself is on the ballot in November. Yeah, okay. He's portraying the midterm elections as a stark contrast between optimism and hope and darkness and fear. Well, let's break that down for a second. Optimism and hope. I hope things will get better. I'm optimistic things will get better. That's not a fucking plan, dude. Like, he doesn't have a plan. We've already seen for 2 years what his plan is. What? He's optimistic that the border crisis will resolve itself. He's hopeful that the border crisis will help itself. He's let in 4 million undocumented people into this country. 4 million. So even if 10% of them are bad actors, maybe perhaps prisoners released and bust up this way by, Maduro or some of these other shitwads, we've just let in almost 500,000 bad actors. And I'm not trying to color them all as bad actors. They're not. Man, I see people from the Latin American countries hustling every single day on the streets. And if they want to come here and take jobs from lazy fucking Americans who want to work 4 hours a day from home, then fine. Let them take the jobs. Maybe we won't have to crank fast food wages up to $22 an hour and fuck up the whole system here in California. Let's look at the darkness and fear. Okay, yes, you can say darkness and fear is negative, but you could also say it's pretty pragmatic, because right now we're seeing people out on the streets committing crimes who have been in jail or arrested 46 plus times. 40, 50, 60 times these people have been arrested, and they're back on the streets and they're killing people. And it's not until somebody dies that we actually care. But here in California, in some places, we now say that things are drug-induced murders. So now we're going to excuse the drug addicts or the people who are high. So if you go into a store and viciously rape and murder a woman, but you're high on meth, what? That's some sort of excuse? No, it's not an excuse. You still did it. You still participated in that crime. The meth didn't do it. You did it. Fear? I'm fearful that we're running out of water. I'm fearful that I'm running out of money. We're being drowned in all kinds of speculative schemes here in California, where we think low-cost housing involves taking $1 million to build one tiny little room because of all the red tape and all the bureaucracy and taxes and fees and fines and regulations and blah, blah, blah. I'm fearful that the government of California can't fucking run a hot dog stand, let alone a state. That's what I'm fearful of. But he wants to portray Republicans as we're some sort of threat to democracy. I want to show you who's on his side. See those people back there? The fascist, anti-fascist action group? You see their sign? Do you see what their sign is? That's their sign right there. I wish I could blow it up even bigger, but man, I'm just not that technologically able, I guess. Well, that says Ashley Babbitt deserved it. So when that woman was shot, an unarmed woman was shot by Capitol Police, and nobody wanted to cover it, and nobody got in trouble for it, they're saying she deserved to die. Really? These are the same people who said that George Floyd didn't deserve to die. And that's a really good little place to look to see where I'm coming from right now. Looking back, George Floyd, was he really worth burning all those cities down? Maybe Ashley Babbitt had some bad ideas. Maybe she got swept up in a bad crowd. But she deserved to die? That's according to Antifa. And they're about as left-wing as you can get. His comments led to, we talk about Trump inciting violence. Well, Biden comes out and says that Republicans, he essentially said that because, how do you do, what it's like saying, well, criminal black people are bad, but black people aren't bad. People don't always make that distinction, do they? For decades, there has been none of that distinction. So when he says MAGA Republicans, people take it as Republicans. And this guy who ran down a teen following a political argument said he didn't understand why he's being charged. I have a job, a life, a house, and things I don't exactly want to see go by the wayside. You ran down and murdered a teen. And then here comes their excuse to let him off. He was drunk. He was drunk. Oh, he was drunk. Okay. The people January 6th thought the election had been stolen. Does that give them the right to storm the Capitol? Apparently not. But it's okay if this guy runs over a teen, because after all, that teen was, a Republican, and Republicans, and let's be honest, what he really meant was non-Democrats. Non-brainwashed progressive people are a threat to democracy. No, we're a threat to your kingdom, to your rule, to your autocracy, or however the fuck you say that word. Back here at home, California is delaying the release of 2 student test scores from last spring until after the election. Yeah, because they fucked up all of our kids. Because instead of coming up with a comprehensive plan or growing a set and just wading our way through the pandemic like Florida did with almost statistically no difference, we locked everything down. We screwed up several different grade levels beyond repair. It could even be argued that we have screwed up this entire generation of California kids because our governor, being a no-balls idiot puppet of the left-wing Soros and people like that, thought, I don't want any deaths, so I'm going to shut the whole state down. Yeah, cowards. So Biden now wants, and the NTSB want to put alcohol detection systems into all new cars. Personally, I find that to be very offensive. As a recovering alcoholic, I do not want to have to blow start my car. That's a load of fucking bullshit. But let's look at this. He says it's because nearly 40,000 people die every year because of drunk driving. They also want to ban guns because 35,000 people, including suicides, mind you, die every year from guns. But when 100,000 plus people, both of those numbers, drunk driving and guns, kill less than fentanyl. But what does he do about fentanyl? Nothing. We know where it comes from. You ever heard of Quaaludes? There's a reason why you might not have heard of Quaaludes, because we figured out what makes Quaaludes, where it's coming from, and we stopped it. But what does he do for fentanyl? He opens the borders further. While the people flood El Paso and Yuma, the drug dealers just come up right up the middle. The drug dealers are probably just coming right into California, because thanks to California's policies, this is a mecca for crime. This is a mecca for criminal organizations. But no. Let's make everybody start their car. Here's an interesting survey. 68% of Americans felt safer 2 years ago with Trump in office. Yeah, because at least then, the guy at the wheel of the entire country was trying to resist these progressive policies that just create a revolving prison system. These are people who bend over backwards to lower prison populations. And they don't care if they sacrifice our safety to do that. They don't. They just want to say we have less prisoners. Oh, look, we don't put people in jail. Isn't that great of us? We're so progressive. I really don't understand that. What's progressive about that? Being just naive is not, because woke seems to be some sort of stupid progressive idea. So I'm assuming that goes hand in hand with being naive. Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is the single greatest example of what is wrong with our media today. Could you imagine? We have to bring it up. We have to say, what if Hunter Biden was Donald Trump Jr.? Look how hard they're going after Trump. You have the DA of New York, who, even though they have skyrocketing crime, is focused on one thing and one thing only: getting Trump. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden's out there. And people say, oh, well, it's not like he's the president. Yes, the problem is he's the one selling the influence. He's the one who is facilitating meetings between Biden and people who probably shouldn't be meeting with Biden, the president. Where is the coverage of this? This is the kind of story that in just a few years past, news agencies would have been clamoring all over, getting interviews, collecting evidence, videos, all of this stuff. Instead, they bury it. They put it out for a day and then it just disappears. We have the single most corrupt presidential family ever in the White House. That, at least I don't know. If there was somebody more corrupt, let's hear about it. Let's hear about it. Who are you going to compare it to? I don't know. This guy's pretty fucking sleazy, and nobody's doing anything about it because it doesn't fit the agenda. I don't give a fuck about your agenda. I don't even care about my agenda if my agenda is going to end up hurting people. Speaking of agendas, wow. California's latest power problems are just the beginning. Yeah. All of this shit about zero emissions. You know, we're going to go zero emission by 2045. China might go zero emissions by like 2060. Yeah. Because the technology isn't there. But this is what I really wanted to bring up. Right here. He postponed the retirement of the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant, despite the fact that activists thought they'd secured its closure. Activists thought they'd secured its closure. Not scientists, not energy producers, not people who have the goal of supplying California with power. No, activists. You know, activists are. While you're at work, these people are sitting around dreaming up fanciful ways to save the world, also known as telling you what to do and making everything more expensive. They want your car. They want our homes. They want our streets. They want to make it unsafe to walk to work, to shop, or to even go to school. They find ways to import street people from around the country to increase their own funding. They worry about giving out Narcan and clean needles, but not cleaning up the junkies. And since they're so well funded, they could buy their way out of the mess that they've created. And all we have to do is look no further than California, where they demand the end of fossil fuels, but block the creation of solar plants and wind farms. As we suffer through droughts, they block the creation of desalination plants and reservoirs. They block our attempts to clean up parts, all while doling out cash and drug supplies to junkies and bums. Is that really what we want? What I really don't want is a phone call in the middle of this. Freaking who the hell's calling me right now? But that's what they're doing. That is exactly what these activists are doing. We have to increase our renewable energy by 5 times its pace right now, because they're not producing enough electricity for what they have. And now they want to raise our dependency on electricity, as we're going to see. And they tell us this whole upheaval is to stop climate change. But there's no proof that we can do that. And while the rest of the world is ramping up, what good does that do for us to ramp so far down that we're now staring into the abyss? And when it all goes tits up, and it will, our company's going to return to California to supply power or cars? Or are they going to be so blocked and hemmed in place that there's no profit for them? No reason for them to come back. They want to focus on electric cars, but we're going to have to charge our cars during the daytime. How? When they're at work? How are we going to, if you're the plant that you work at employs about 300 people, they're going to have to install 300 power chargers? And what's that going to do to the cost of things? The maintenance and the repair and the replacement of these charging stations. They don't even have a plan for the madness that they're trying to inflict on us. And speaking of not having a plan inflicting us, thousands of children are dying trying to cross into our country from Mexico. And what's being done about it? Really, thousands have been abandoned. Just abandoned by coyotes. And we're doing nothing. We're saying, hey, we're open. By any means necessary, get to our country. And that's what they're doing. There was a 5-year-old boy that was abandoned in Mexicali. They put him on his back and took him to Yuma. The Dems, you see that in blue right there? Dems reject GOP investigation into the safety of unaccompanied children at the border. Completely unnecessary, because they don't care about the children. They don't care about the Venezuelans. They don't care about the Panamanians, the Mexicans, the Guatemalans. They don't give a fucking shit about any of that. They only care about being right, about proving the worthiness of their agenda. That's what they care about. And that's all they care about. That's it. That's the problem with, or at least as I see it, the problem with woke is that woke is all about achieving a goal, no matter if that goal is good or bad. Right? I don't care. Look at that. El Paso, the facilities are so overcrowded, they're releasing migrants into the streets. And yet Martha's Vineyard in Chicago and Washington, D.C. won't take these people. You see how that works? It's really easy to sit in Chicago and say, we should have an open border. Just don't bring any of them here. That's fucking racist. That's what we're seeing out of the Dems, once again. Pretend to not be racist while being racist. Look at that. This dude fled Venezuela 3 months ago. He worked as a carpenter before the economy plunged so deep and inflation rose so high he could no longer afford to eat. That's what's happening here in California. Yeah, it is. They're driving off businesses. They're pissing off businesses. They're discouraging businesses from coming here. And meanwhile, all of their grandiose fucking agenda-driven ideas are causing the price of housing. Our housing prices here are double the rest of the country average. Double. They want California to be a rich person's paradise, free of the scummy middle class. But the reality is that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because they're going to need people to run the companies that import and bring them their stuff. They want the illegal immigrants here so they can clean their toilets, and the rest of us could piss off. There you go, Maduro, releasing prisoners to the U.S. border. You don't think he's doing that? Huh, yeah. Castro did that. Ever see a film called Scarface with Al Pacino? Say hello to my little friend. First you get the pineapple, then first you get the power, then you get the pineapple. How you get a scar like that? Eating pineapple? Those are the TV edits from Scarface. But that was Castro sending prisoners to the United States. You don't think Venezuela's doing that? Okay. Soros-funded group behind lawsuit targeting DeSantis for flying. So you see what Melty Face is doing? You see what that fucking burning out candle look? Oh, God, that motherfucker. Guys, that's the enemy of democracy right there. You want to see the enemy of democracy? He's staring at you right there. Soros. They shipped them out of Florida. Southern states are getting inundated. 4 million. 4 million. That's million with a B. Are coming across into places like Florida, Texas, and Arizona. And Arizona, Texas, and Florida are saying, hey, this is not Florida's border. This is not Texas's border. This is America's border. America needs to deal with this. Biden was flying immigrants all around the country, but DeSantis sends some to lovely Martha's Vineyard, and suddenly he's going to get sued, and that fuckwad is going to put up the money? Oh, come on, folks. See the writing on the wall. Here you go. Let's get into some weird shit California's going to do now. We're going to ban natural gas furnaces and heaters. Right. So we're more dependent on electricity. Right. That'll, environmentalists are betting we'll provide a template for other states. Betting. It's in their interest. They're invested in solar and wind companies, not oil and gas companies. So they want to just destroy our economy to put up windmills. The only reason renewable energy is even remotely working in California is because of our weather. And as much as we'd like to think that California is something important, we are a speck. Yep. They're hopeful, see? And they're a nonprofit focused on the transition to clean energy. No plan, just we want clean energy. So now California is going to help out by getting rid of parking requirements. So in other words, if you build a house or apartment buildings near train stations, you don't have to put up parking. So where are you going to charge your electric car? Guess what, fuckers? You're not going to have a car. You're not going to have freedom to go where you want. You will take a train, you will take a bus, and you will walk. Enjoy your life in California. Because we want more people. Don't have enough water or electricity for the people that are here, but we want more people. We want everybody to come to California and pay taxes so Gavin Newsom and his kind can just pilfer the public funds and put them into the back pockets of their friends and family. Here's another great one. I have to go in and get a real ID. I have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm a U.S. citizen because he's giving California IDs to illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants. Fuck that. They're illegal. Look, fix the system. Get them so that they're not illegal. I'm fine with that part of it. But let's not sugarcoat this shit, folks. And what's this? What's this? What are you looking at on the screen right there? You know what that is? That is a woman's porch. And she can't get that homeless guy to stop sleeping on her porch. And I've seen this lady. She's a beautiful woman. How long before that guy just sits on the porch and decides, you know what? I might as well just break into the house. I might as well steal her stuff. I might as well just rape and murder her. Well, now, I might not want to murder her because then somebody else will buy the house and maybe they'll put up a gate. But that's what's being allowed here. The police move him off. They threaten him. Hey, leave or we'll take you to jail. Now, how about you just take him to jail? How about you just get him for trespassing, search him, find all of his fucking drugs and shit, and take him to fucking jail? Oh, Newsom here signs a bill to remove squaw. Because that's our giant problem, right? That's our giant problem. I want to explain something about what's going on here in California. Okay? Give me just a quick second here. I got to flip through all my note paper. Listen to that. There's some paper. There's some ASMR paper. In California, the average home price is $775,000. But you're a young person. You've started your job. You've managed to find a job that can't be outsourced. So you find you're going to move to Riverside. You're going to buy a house for $650,000. You could afford one electric car, but your wife needs that because you don't want her walking to work. And she works locally as a nurse or something. So you take the train to downtown. So instead of a 1 hour drive, the train plus the subsequent walking now takes twice as long. So every day you spend 4 hours commuting and 8 hours working. That's 12 hours. That's half your day. And then your $4,000 property bill goes to funding crackpot schemes like reparations. Not the things that are important. Your local public schools have fallen apart, so now you're paying for a private school. But even at that private school, your children still have to walk past junkies and bums. And after that, you come home, and there's an RV parked in front of your house, and a couple bums are pitching a tent in your cul-de-sac. And the dude in the RV is dealing meth until all hours of the night, threatening you every time the police show up. You call the police again, I'm going to fucking kill you and your family. And every morning when your kids and your wife leave your house, that dude in the RV or those bums in the cul-de-sac are just staring at them and using it as leverage to threaten you into complying with their idiotic request that they get to just live rent-free on your street. But no, Squaw Valley. We're going to get rid of Squaw Valley. That'll fix the problems. We have no electricity, no water, rampant crime, a dangerous drug problem, and scores of street people. But Gavin wants to ban squaw, gas heaters, and plastic bags. While the taxpayers suffer, he gives more and more money to homeless advocates who are literally making the problem worse for their own gain. And to gaslight you into believing this is all necessary, he cloaks it in inequality and climate change. And that's what they're doing on a national level, too. See? There you go, naked Joe Biden with his fucking sippy cup. And the media covering up for it, putting the spin on it. Recently, the comic strip Dilbert was pulled from 77 newspapers. Most of those newspapers were all owned by the same group. That's the problem with the mainstream media, is that they own cable channels, streaming channels, radio, newspapers, magazines. All they care about is their agenda. All they care about is winning. They don't care about the consequences. Purple State Party is about the consequences. Purple State is about the solutions. We're not trying to say, hey, look at us, we're right. We're saying, look at us, we are right. The evidence backs it up. Stacey Abrams burst through wall like Kool-Aid Man to tell overjoyed mother that the heartbeat sound she's hearing is fake. Look, I support a woman's right to abortion. I think it's an ugly thing. I think it is murdering babies. It is. But if that's a choice you want to make, that's a choice you should make. But let's not try to sugarcoat it and say, oh, well, there's not really a fetal heartbeat. It's all a fake. That's bullshit. Jean-Pierre clarifies that official White House policy is the opposite of what Biden says in interviews. Yeah, because Biden said he was going to defend Taiwan. We're not going to defend Taiwan. I don't know what we're going to do about Taiwan. New communist food delivery service just delivers you empty containers and shoots you. Oh, that's fucking awesome. Martha's Vineyard takes revenge on DeSantis by shipping him 50 Karens. A couple of those Karens are kind of hot. I think the gray and the black. Let me know which one's the prettiest down in the comments. Because you know what? Let's just be I'm going to assume be a superficial male for a second. All right? I'm a real dude. That's just the way I roll sometimes. AOC tearfully recounts how DeSantis yanked her from her Venezuelan home and human trafficked her to Martha's Vineyard, where she died. Now, this is the least effective politician we've ever had, and yet she's one of the most widely known ones. Useless. She says all the right things, but accomplishes nothing. That's the abyss, folks. If we are going to look to people like AOC for our future, man, by the time if you're between the age of 18 and 30, by the time you realize what a horrible mistake you've made, it will be too late. I already know. I've already seen it. I'm in my mid-50s. I've already seen the results of these stupid-ass policies. DeSantis accused of human trafficking after dropping kids off at soccer practice. Wow. You know, like I've said before, I love the B. I don't support them on every single belief that they have, but when it comes to political satire, you can't deny that they're not the absolute kings of it. All right. That's all I got to show you. So in a minute, you'll be seeing my face again. So you've heard me complain a lot. And I have a solution, and that solution is what I'm trying to bring you. Purple state. You know, we can have legalized pot without having rampant crime. We could have gay rights without an open border. We could have, we could have a greener future without burdening the citizens to the point of desperation. We could have these things, but we can't have them when when the two ways of doing things are at polar opposites of each other. I mean, I want a greener future, but I want one that's achieved without sacrificing everything. In the name of what? To make Gavin Newsom the wokest governor ever? Yay! Our governor's so woke. You know, we need to get the infrastructure together first. Then pass some decrees. Because that's what we're getting. We're just getting decrees. Our king, Newsom, is decreeing things. We're not voting on them. We're not choosing to go down this fucking path. We're being lied to. Climate change has been monetized. The rest of the world dwarfs California. The rest of the world dwarfs the United States. So no matter what we do, it's all going to be offset. As we stop using coal, coal gets cheaper. Other countries start burning coal to make electricity. That's what's happening. That's the reality of the world. That is the reality. And before you quote a bunch of studies about climate change and 99% of papers, blah, blah, blah. Remember, if Soros gives you $2 million to write a paper on how bad humans are you going to write a paper about how good they are? What if all the evidence says humans are good people? Then you've got to find that evidence, slant that evidence, tilt that evidence. Because you know what you want? You want to deliver that paper, and then he gives you $2 million for another paper, and another paper, and another study, and pays for a year for you to live on some tropical island studying climate change. But you better fucking come back with the results he wants, because he paid for the results that he wants. That's the problem. We see that. You best not come back with an opposing viewpoint. Because you're not getting any more funding. So yes, man is completely responsible for climate change. Thank you. Now can I have a check to prove how man is responsible for climate change? Thank you. Can I have some more money? And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're getting out of these people. Why the fuck can't I figure out where it is? There it is. You know, right now, to put things into some sort of perspective, Japan is using 91. I can't do 91 with my... 91? Japan is using 91 coal-burning power plants. The U.S., for all of our rhetoric, we are using 240 coal-burning plants. It's not really a lot. China, 1,100 and growing. And other countries, like I said, as coal stops being used by the United States, we'll export it, other people will export it, it'll become the cheap way of making electricity for developing nations, okay? Third world nations as we used to know them, but developing nations. And they will be using that for decades. China says it'll be carbon neutral by 2060. Right. China also said that the opening to the Olympics was 100% real. It was digital. The girl who sang the song was a stand-in because the girl who actually was singing the song was too ugly to put on TV. You could look that up, folks. China says they don't use slave labor. Oh, what, us? And, another thing to put into perspective when you talk about climate change is let's look at our three biggest nations and how big they really are. Russia is 3.5% of the earth. Canada, 1.98% of the earth. And China is 1.88%. Now, my math ain't strong, but I'm guessing that between our three largest nations by ground or area, somewhere around 7%. I don't know how much of an effect we can have. We are specks on this planet. Again, let me reiterate, I do want a green future. I don't know how much of that's going to help, but I do know that we are moving way too fast. We are putting the cart miles ahead of the horse right now. California is supposed to be the model for the nation. California is a speck. California needs water, not electric vehicles. And this all comes down to the media. You might think that blaming the media is some sort of easy target, but they're the ones who twist the stories. They're the ones who allow things like, for example, here in California, we want to legalize online sports betting. But they don't call it that. They call it Prop 27, the proposition to end homelessness, because all the money is going to be funneled into homelessness, which just means every homeless advocate, you got a raise. You get a raise, you get a raise, you get a raise. And bring some more homeless people in, because now we've got all these high-paid homeless advocates over here, so we need to give them something to do. So let's bus them in. Because states are busing their homeless to California because we treat them so well. We treat the taxpayers like shit. But if you are a junkie, if you have ruined your life because of drugs or alcohol, California is the place for you. You could pitch a tent on the beach. We will give you a cell phone. We will give you money. And guess what? If we catch you breaking into a car, we may or may not arrest you. Huh? But it's the media. It's the media that shapes and perverts these stories. And a great example of the media takes place halfway around the world in a place called Russia. Right now in Russia, there are two types of men. Those who have access to outside news, the affluent people, city people, people with good jobs, they have a little bit of money. They have access to outside news. And they realize that Russia is losing the war in Ukraine. And the war in Ukraine is, quite frankly, unjust. There is no greater good being solved or served by invading Ukraine. And that group is fleeing Russia en masse. It's almost impossible to get a flight out of Moscow right now. Putin has outlawed men of a certain age from even leaving the country because he wants to put them in the army. The second type of man in Russia is more rural or for whatever reason, relies more on state media. And he's convinced that Hitler has invaded Ukraine and is massacring our brethren. They are massacring the brethren. It is the second Holocaust, and we must get over there and protect Ukraine like good Russians do. We fight the dictators and the Nazis and the fascists. We're going to go over there. They're just cannon fodder who are just going to die for nothing, and they're going to die quickly. The Ukrainians are motivated. It's their land being invaded. It is an unjust war, and we're giving them the best shit. The Russians are probably going to give those soldiers a rifle, then the next guy gets ammunition. When the first guy dies, second guy picks up the rifle. That's what they did in World War II. That's what they're going to do right now. And that's because the media has convinced some of these people that the cause is just, even when it's not. And that's what we have here. That's what we have here now. A media that is going to try to convince us that running full speed at the abyss, as we get closer to falling off the abyss, somewhere along the lines, everything's going to be great and we're going to be able to divert. But what if we just go right off into the abyss? because we're blindly following the wrong people. Follow me. I'm Purple State. And so are you. Peace, y'all. $1 this.